Strap into your seats and get ready. It's time for the Mortarpod.
Hey everybody, Alex Stephenson from SeemsGoodMagic.com here. Welcome to this week's episode of the Mortarpod. The Mortarpod is a weekly video podcast where I discuss with you completely custom Magic the Gathering sets based on movies, TV shows, books, all sorts of stuff like that, and present it to you every week. So this week we're doing a film from my childhood. I guess I didn't realize how old this movie is. And it actually has a history that goes back way further than the 1991 movie. But this one is going to focus on the 1991 movie. That's right, the Addams Family. So the Addams Family is kind of just a weird concept. It's kind of like this creep show family that is living in, contemporary society. So they creep everybody out because they live like monsters. But they're not monsters. They're people that live like monsters. So it's really strange. And I remember loving the film as a kid. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I have a feeling it holds up fairly well. And of course, there was the old Addams Family. I think it was I believe it was 50s or 60s. I mean, this was an old TV show, and it was pretty similar conceptually to the movie that was later released. But since then, I mean, I believe in the 80s, they had some sort of weird spin-off. So there's been all sorts of weird Addams Family spin-offs. But the one that stands out to me the most is the one that was sort of made for my generation. And that is the 1991 movie, which is excellent, by the way. I mean, at least when you're 6 years old, you think it's pretty excellent. So it was just funny and creepy, and it was really cool. So let's go through the set. We've got the Addams Family Mansion, which is a really cool building in the movie too. They've got all these like creepy rooms and booby traps and crazy stuff around the mansion. And Gomez, they're all very rich too because they have this sort of treasure room that's full of gold. So I just love the sort of mystery of how they're rich and why they're so creepy and their connection with like the dark forces, It's very interesting. But the Addams Family Mansion is a mythic legendary land. It enters the battlefield tapped. It taps for 1 black mana, or you can pay 1 and 2 black and tap, and you get to draw a card and lose 2 life. So the reason that I made it lose 2 life is it's basically coming into play with like an underworld connections attached to it otherwise. So I wanted to make it lands that draw cards, I feel like you have to have quite a bit of a setback to it. You can't just have a land that comes in and draws cards every turn if there's not some sort of setback. So my thinking is having to tap 3 in addition to this land, so you need at least 4 lands, 2 of which have to produce black, 3 of which produce black because you have to tap the mansion too. And losing 2 life. So all of that is, in my mind, enough of a setback where this card is at least balanced. Because, I mean, think about it. This card would be amazing in, like, Commander or something like that. If you had this in Commander, this would be played in, like, every blacklist of Commander. Just because drawing cards off of lands is really that good. So moving on. We've got Gomez Addams, the patriarch, played by the late, great Raul Julia. And I really like Gomez. He's very suave and charismatic and boisterous. And he's got such like an adventurous spirit, too. He's into sword fighting, fencing, and he's acrobatic. He's just a really cool character, and he's like, almost supernatural in his athletic gifts. So Gomez Addams, the patriarch, 2 colorless and 2 black for a 3/3 legendary human creature. He has first strike, and he has kind of an unusual ability, but whenever Gomez Addams, the patriarch, deals combat damage when attacking, defending player loses life equal to its power. So just to clear up any confusion on what this is, it's not like the Thorn Elemental ability, the one in green, if you remember, where it can deal its damage to defending player. It's not that. Because Gomez, even if he's blocked by a creature, still makes the defending player lose life as well as deals damage to the creature. So Gomez Addams is like kind of the next level of that ability. He basically, if he's unblocked and hits an opponent, they lose 6 life instead of 3. So Gomez is this is just kind of an experimental sort of ability, but definitely very aggressively strong in that sense. I mean, you just have to keep swinging with him, and as long as he's dealing damage, defending player is going to lose life. So pretty strong ability. I would be interested to see how it played, of course. And then Gomez, the quote I have on him is, he's talking about Morticia, of course. Look at her. I would die for her. I would kill for her. Either way, what bliss. So I love their sort of just really macabre attitude about everything. It's always doom and gloom, but they're like happy about the doom and gloom. I really love that weird dynamic of the Addams family. Okay, next we have Morticia Addams, played by Angelica Houston, who did an excellent job. And Morticia Addams is 1 and 2 black for a legendary human creature. She's a 2/3. She has the mechanic of the set, which is Harness Darkness. So Harness Darkness is tap, add a black mana to your mana pool, you lose 1 life, spend this mana only to cast black spells or activate abilities of black permanents. So my thinking was, black has been known to get ramp, but it always comes at a cost, whether it be Dark Ritual, where it comes at the cost of a card to get the ramp. And by the way, I don't think they're going to be reprinting Dark Ritual anytime soon. That card proved to be a bit too strong. But also there's stuff like Blood Pet, where you sacrifice the Blood Pet and then you get to ramp. So usually it comes at the cost of sacrificing something. So instead of having sacrifice, I wanted to sort of branch out a little bit with black ramp. So instead it's you lose life, which makes sense to black for me. I mean, if you're harnessing black mana, I could see it punishing your life total. And also only being able to cast black spells or activate abilities of black permanents. So you can only use that mana for insidious dark purposes. I'm kind of happy with how this mechanic turned out. I mean, granted, it's like almost like a watered down basic green ability, but seeing it in black for some reason is strangely like satisfying to me. So I'd love to hear feedback on if people like that or if they think it's like too much color pie bleeding. I think the amount in which I've neutered the ability really does make it probably acceptably balanced in my mind. And then Morticia's other ability, of course, whenever you cast a black spell, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So she has like a free extort mechanic on her. And I've said this before, but with legends, you tend to be able to push power level slightly because they're a legend. You get like a little bit of an extra power level because they're a legend. But I have, noticed some design restrictions with legends as well. For example, it's tough to make Enter the Battlefield abilities on legends because then you run into the difficulty of you just play the same legend, you get another Enter the Battlefield ability, and then you just sacrifice one of them, which for some reason just doesn't mechanically feel correct. So really you want like good activated abilities or good triggered abilities with legends is what I found from designing all these cards. So next we have Wednesday Addams, played by Christina Ricci. And this is just when she was just a little girl. I actually don't know how old she was in this movie. She must have been super young in the original in 1991. She was probably, I don't even know. I want to say like 7 to 9. She was very young in this movie. So Wednesday Addams is 1 black. She's a legendary human creature. She's a 1/1. She also has Harness Darkness, and she has black. She has an activated ability of black. Put a -1/-1 counter on another target creature you control. Then put a +1/+1 counter on Wednesday Addams. So this ability is sort of pointing to the fact that Wednesday loves to torture everything, whether it be her brother, animals, no restrictions. Wednesday is a pretty dark little girl. So her her sort of sadistic nature is what I wanted to get, where it's like you pain the ones around her and it makes her stronger. So I like that. And I like this picture of her too. You can see the sort of she was really good at making the creepiest little girl face you've ever seen. And if you want to view these and all my custom magic sets, just go to SeemsGoodMagic.com, click on custom sets, and you can see there's pages of custom sets at this point. So, and if you have a request for any movies, TV shows, books, feel free to leave that in the comments, and I definitely will read it and see if it's something that I can do. Okay, next we have Pugsley Addams. I actually don't know the actor who played Pugsley's name. As far as I know, he never went on to do anything else, which is kind of interesting. But Pugsley is the son of Gomez and Morticia, and he's not quite as insidious or sinister as his sister is, Wednesday. But Pugsley is definitely an Addams and still has some dark nature to him. So Pugsley Addams is 1 and 2 black for a legendary human creature. He's a 1/3. He has, whenever another creature dies, you gain 2 life, and then 1 and a black, sacrifice another creature, target player loses 2 life. So kind of a cool little engine that he's got on him. And definitely a powerful ability with the whenever another creature dies, gain 2 life. That's that can, I mean, the fact that it affects both sides of the board, you and your opponent, makes it a pretty strong ability. And there's probably combat situations where it's tough to play around that the amount of life gain you can get. So there's Pugsley, a little bit similar to Keru Bloodsucker from Khans of Tarkir. Next we have Lurch the Manservant, who is sort of this quiet zombie-looking guy, but I'm still pretty sure he's just a human, but he's definitely a creepy-looking crazy person. And he is the manservant of the Addams. He's not related to them, but they still have a very close relationship, and he serves as sort of their butler and opening the doors and doing tasks around the house for them and stuff like that. So Lurch the Manservant is 2 and 2 black for a 2/2 legendary human creature. He has Defender and Indestructible, and he has 2 and a black. Target black creature you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So I kind of always see Lurch as staying at the house, which is why he has Defender. And the fact that he's indestructible is mostly because I've never seen him in pain, and I've seen him do some pretty crazy stuff. Like Wednesday, when they're at a lemonade stand, concocts the lemonade from what looks like a bunch of really dangerous, hazardous chemicals, and Lurch takes a drink of it, and I believe like breathes fire out of his mouth. So as far as I know, Lurch is unkillable. He is certainly indestructible. Okay, next we have Fester Addams. So Fester Addams is sort of the he's played by Christopher Lloyd, I should say, from Back to the Future. Another custom magic set, I'll have you know. You can see that at SeemsGoodMagic.com. Fester Addams, the whole plot of the story is Gomez's brother Fester has been missing for a long time, and they're sort of looking for him, and he happens to have gained amnesia somewhere, and is involved with it's kind of complicated, but he's kind of involved in a plot to steal money from the Addams, because he actually doesn't even realize that he is Fester Addams until later in the movie. So it's really strange, but he's an unusual looking guy, and of course maybe you remember Fester's Quest, the Nintendo game based on him, so that was always cool. But yes, he's Uncle Fester. So Fester Addams is 3 black for a 3/2 legendary human creature. He has Death Touch, and he has 2 black Regenerate Fester Addams. So Death Touch Regenerate, always a pretty crazy little ability mashup, but being on a rare, being very black color intensive, I think makes him slightly more balanced. And then his quote is when he's talking to Wednesday about a performance that she's to do at her school with Pugsley. They're going to get in a sword fight and just stab each other in front of everybody. So Fester says, "Haven't you ever slaughtered anyone? Aim for a major artery, the jugular." So Fester, yeah, little creepy, a little simple of a man. And in fact, in Addams Family Values, you start to get a better idea of his sense of humor and stuff like that. He's sort of a simple man, to say the least. Next, we have Thing, loyal pet. So, of course, if you know Addams Family, you know Thing. Thing is a disembodied hand that sort of serves as like the Addams pet. And the funny thing is, no one really seems surprised. I mean, outsiders that come into their house aren't really that shocked by a disembodied hand that's, you know, skittering around the ground and doing tasks. So Thing Loyal Pet is 2 black for a 2/1 legendary horror creature. I didn't know what kind of creature type to make him, so I looked up the definition of horror, and I think it works. I believe it works. It has Intimidate, and whenever another black creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may return Thing Loyal Pet from your graveyard to the battlefield tap. So pretty strong card, actually. Definitely worthy of being legendary, since if you were to self-mill a bunch of things into your graveyard, being able to bring them all back, a bunch of Intimidators every time you play a black creature would be probably too good. But since this guy's a little legend, you don't have to worry about that. So I like it. It's got Evasion because it has Intimidate because it's a disembodied hand, so who wouldn't be terrified about that? And you can bring it back to the battlefield whenever you play a black creature, sort of shouting out the fact that whenever the Addams have a task for it, it always seems to appear and be helpful. And Thing's kind of a cool, interesting character throughout the movies, and definitely was in the original TV show as well. Finally, we have Grandmama Eudora Addams, and she's really funny. She seems to have some. Well, in the movie, she's Morticia's mom. I believe in the 1950s, 60s show, she was Gomez's mom. So that's kind of interesting that they switched that up. But Grandmama Eudora Addams is 3 and 2 black for a 2/5 human wizard creature. It has Harness Darkness as well. And then this ability, it has a triggered ability. Whenever you activate a creature's Harness Darkness ability, target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. So here's an example of a card that could utilize Harness Darkness in addition to the black ramp that you're getting. It also gets to give creatures -1/-1 until end of turn. So kind of like removal when you use her Harness Darkness ability, which I like. Finally, we have Cousin It, and you must remember Cousin It, right? Cousin It is essentially a oddly short ball of fur. I believe Cousin It is human, which is why I gave it the human creature type, but I'm not exactly sure. It speaks in like a high-pitched sort of gibberish language that everyone seems to understand, except the viewer, of course. And I guess visiting people don't necessarily understand Cousin It either, so I don't know what language it's speaking, but the Addams really love Cousin It, and it's definitely a little creepy ball of fur. So Cousin It is 1 and 2 black for a legendary human creature. It's a 2/3. It has other black creatures you control get +1/+1, and if Cousin It would die, you may put it on top of its owner's library instead. So kind of a lord that's tough to kill. I thought it was an interesting little ability mashup. Certainly something that would be limited playable. So I don't know if you noticed, but this entire set is black creatures. But that's only because I'm not sure what else the Addams Family could really branch into. They are a very they're about as black as you can get when it comes to what color they belong in. Okay, so that is this week's episode of the Mortarpod. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're digging the Dragons of Tarkir drafts. Plenty more on the horizon. Okay, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week.